And we just got Echo, or the main character, starting back towards, well, her pack of foxes, but we'll get to that. Just give me 10 seconds to fold up this blanket. It's a bit of a mess. Just, I'm wanting to make sure the recording area I have is a bit more sound and a bit more not echoey. Not that my mic isn't good, it is. It's just, I could record this in a closet, but, closets are a bit, tight, I think is the word I'm looking for. Plus, then I have to do a bunch of laundry in there, and I have to make sure there's not a lot to absorb the sound. Just close my door so it doesn't reverberate, and I believe I'm good. Okay, now. We are on Chapter 2, boys and girls. If you need a quick recap, we just met our first antagonist with Echo, and she had been walking back home, walking back to where her pack was afterwards. Well, as far as we know, our only antagonist. But we'll see where this takes us. Need a quick drink of water. My throat's still a bit dry, so don't mind me. Okay. She starts her way back towards the forest lining, towards the right side of where she was at. She was just outside of a fox's burrow that she had managed to find to hide her kill, which was her meal for yesterday. She starts heading towards the right, and slowly starts inching her way back towards where she remembers her fox den to be at, along with a few of her other companions or friends. She starts to do so. You can hear the gentle crush of grass beneath her paws or beneath her pads as she starts along her way, pushing a few branches from the bushes out of the way and starting just along the right. When she starts heading through one, then two bushes to get there, she stops to look around for a few seconds, picking up a bit of a smell. It smells familiar, so she thinks she's getting closer. She puts a broad smile on her face. She proceeds to start heading a bit faster, getting a bit excited to go home, because it's like after that long journey you just had, at least this is what she's thinking. It's like after having a long journey that you just got home, that you're just starting to get home, so you're getting really excited. Because, you're getting home. She starts actually almost about going into a sprint. She starts feeling the wind going through her fur then as it brushes by her, as it feels like little snakes running through her fur. Because she's running quite fast, and these are like wind drifts, so they have to feel like something. I don't know why I'm describing it this way. Don't mind me. But she keeps running with this, and proceeds to run, but as she's not paying attention too much, runs broadly into a tree as she rubs her head a little bit after hitting the tree. As she could have sworn she knocked something loose. She shakes her head to make sure everything's still working all right. She looks around to see what made the thumping noise, because she could have sworn she made something fall from the tree. She looks around. She finds an apple. It seems to be about the size of her head. She goes over and smells it, proceeds to pick it up, and brings it with her because, well, some dogs are known to eat apples or other kinds of fruits. At this point, she's still a bit peckish, and maybe the fruit will help her forget that she just hit her head really hard against a fricking tree, she thinks. As she starts heading back into the right, this time a little bit more slower, but with a slight lean to her step, because she's still adjusting from the knock to the head. She manages to stand up mostly straight about halfway through the walk, getting through at least one more bush, as she then starts picking up her familiar scent of her home again, and not getting too hasty, stops herself from running again in a bit of excitement. As she proceeds to start picking up her step, but she doesn't go into a full-on run this time, not paying attention. As she looks around for this time, paying a bit more attention to her surroundings, as she manages she manages to see what looks to be a small orange flower. Well, at least the top of it appears to be orange. The middle two petals and the center all appear to be black, as it seems to be done in an orientation to match what the colors of a fox's pelt would be. So the top rim of it is orange, whereas it's got a snow white underbelly, these petals. The leaves all seem to be that. The leaves even seem to match on the stem, a snow white, which at first surprises her. But she doesn't seem to generally pay it much attention. But she even looks at the ears of the flower, as this flower even looks to have ears for the ways the petals are designed anyway. As this bothers her at first because it shares a canny likeness to her. Excuse me for my impartial English. The flower doesn't seem to be moving or anything, so she can't think there's anything wrong with it. Because as she thinks for a minute, well, you see, as if she's talking to us, she says, well, you see, some plants here are actually alive. I've seen an ant walk around, and I could have sworn yesterday, before we started this journey, that I that some of these flowers actually moved, but most of them just led the way home. There's a small path of them not too far from where I'm at then. I can follow that home. So I don't get lost. I usually get lost about halfway through the trip, forgetting to keep my nose up, per se. And then I end up having to sleep on grass instead of my den, and that makes me usually feel a little bit more tense, per se, because it's not really safe out here. I don't know, I haven't seen much of the night dwellers, no, luckily. But I just want to be somewhere safe, because, well, I would think most things want to be somewhere safe, where it's homely and kind, and other ones of your kind there, like people you can trust and love, of course. Well, I mean, I have a family, but it's not much. It's only a pack of two. Oh, three in this case. And they told me not to stay out for too long. I've been staying out for the past 2 days because I couldn't find my way home. Although one of them always seemed to find me. It was always my little, I guess you could say, little sister. She's one of the younger foxes. And she always gets worried about me and comes looking for me and finds me about halfway down the journey and then wakes me up because I'm already asleep because it's already evening and helps me get back home. And I'm always thankful for that. But it always surprises me how my little sister helps me get home. You would think, me being the big sister, I wouldn't have to worry about that. But I guess I thought wrong, she says with a kind snicker or a smile. As she starts heading down about halfway through it, following the flowers. As she does so, she notices a few of them are differently orientation of colors. She can see some of them are blue, but they're generally in the same pattern. But some of them have the overcoat, or where the orange is, changed out for blues, or reds, or yellows. As she sees about 3 of the yellow ones, and 2 of the blue ones. And she notices one that looks especially pretty, as it seems to have a gentle ice blue coloring to it. And it doesn't seem to be too big of a flower. She goes over to it and begins to smell the flower. As she looks at it, she can smell the scent of it, as it smells like a daffodil or a lily. It's like a mix of the two, but the scent seems to be rather sweet, almost as if she's smelling an apple, but she's aware she has the apple stem still in her muzzle or in her mouth, and she's still holding it there with her, just so she's got something to snack on, just in case she forgets the way again. Because, well, you usually want to make sure your full before going to bed. In this case, because well, it's not getting too close to winter. She's aware of as she looks around, but it is getting close to the end of summer, and she wants to make it. She wants to make sure she's got enough belly fat per se to last the winter. So she's been trying to get a bit more skin to her, get more meat to her bones. And she looks at herself again to make sure she's got enough of enough of that. She looks at herself and she seems quite thin, but not too thin, a little slender per se, as her paws seem to be stretching down. As she looks at them and sees that her pads are black. As she sits down, checking her pads, as she can see her pads are black. As she notices her fur is red with a snow-white tipped tail, and she sees she has a very, very yellow, instead of white, a yellow underbelly. Similar to the white, it's very much so a very pale color of this yellow, as you can only barely tell it's yellow. Only by the thin tips of her hair can you tell it's yellow. As you can see, as she looks up to the tips of her ears, trying to get a good look at them, as she ends up turning around, falling on her back, trying to do this. But as she finally gets a look at it, because the ground manages to hold her ear in a more still-like direction, as she manages to get her eyes to look at the tips of her ears, you can see that they're also that pale yellow. As she smiles and chuckles a little bit, because, well, she just fell over from trying to get a look at her ears. As she begins to start the walk again, picking up the apple, settling it next to her, she hears a few branches snap off to her left. This distracts her for about a split second, but realizing it's not a loud snap, she's got nothing to worry about. But she looks over there anyway, just to see what it is, and she sees a little squirrel dart out of one of the bushes nearby, and begin to dart its way back up a tree. As she can hear it grabbing the bark, and so you can hear that slight crackling noise of the bark as it runs up the tree. As it gets to the topmost branches, she almost questions keeping the apple and not keeping the apple and going after the squirrel. As she thinks, it's got a bit of meat, but I would have to climb a tree, and I don't know how well I'm good at that, how well I could do that. I mean, I need more food for the winter, but at the same time, I've never been known for climbing trees. The last time I tried doing one, I fell out, not even a quarter way up the branches. And that broke my paw. And I don't want to have another adventure like that, so I'm not ready to go try and jump up another tree, per se. She goes over to the tree anyway and looks at it to see how firm some of the branches are. But as she sees how firm one of them are, she just realizes what she just finished talking about and goes back to picking up the apple, saying if the squirrel comes back down, I'm sure I'll get it when it comes back down. Maybe I'll be able to find it tomorrow. Maybe I'll make a good supply of meat then. Hopefully. I'm hoping for that anyway. And she starts following the flowers again, getting about halfway down the flowers. She notices it reaches to an end. Now there seems to be a bit of a crossroads as she's passing through one of the bushes, as one of them leads through a bush on the left, as the other leads through a bush on the right. As she knows she's supposed to follow the orange ones, no different colors. She follows, as you could make a joke here, a differently colored road if you prefer. I'll slightly chuckle at that joke if any of you know The Wizard of Oz. But except it's a yellow brick road and not a yellow bunch of flowers. She looks over and well, it's not even yellow flowers, they're orange. Yeah. She looks over and sees to see if they match the picture she's got in her head. As she looks over and sees that those flowers are a bit more blue, she looks back down to the right and see there's still the matching orange with white. As that puts a good smile on her. As she starts following those flowers, crushing a few, but making sure to be gentle with them so that they'll still grow back for next winter. Because if they don't grow back, she'll have no way of knowing which way's home, because she doesn't As she looks around the forest, realizing a lot of it looks generally the same, but a lot of the trees seem to still be brushing from the wind as she can hear the branches snapping and crackling. Throughout the topmost boughs of some of these trees, she can hear the wind brushing by. As it sounds like it's not too loud, so it's nothing to be worried about. But as she starts picking up the scent, she can't shake the smell of what smells like rain. A very strong smell of rain, actually. And she says now, quick picking up her pace, not wanting to get wet, she thinks to herself, if I get soaked, I won't just be drying off. I might catch a cold or something worse. I don't want to do that, especially if I get stuck out here for the night. I at least want to find some kind of shelter. She starts following the flowers a bit faster now, heading through another two sets of bushes. As she manages to see the fox's den not too far from her, but sees something just to the left of it, as it looks to be a small scrap of meat. As she looks at this, she doesn't see anything out of the ordinary. But as she looks at this, going over to the meat and giving it a quick smell, it seems to be like it's been cut. It looks like it's been cut by either a butcher or a human. Something that's not normal per se for her. But she can't assume, as she looks at it a second time, making sure there's nothing wrong with it, because she wants to make sure it's not been poisoned or anything. She smells it again, seeing if she can pick up that scent. She doesn't smell anything off about the meat, but she knows the town not too far from here is a bit more. They're not high tech. They don't know anything for technology wise. It's still more for them. They're still stuck in a bit of the medieval age, or they're still working with the medieval age. A lot of them are. She realizes while thinking this. But only one village in particular that she knows about that's pretty far from here, named Steel, is up to, I would say, the mechanical age, where as she realizes remembering her parents' stories, is up to the mechanical age where there are metal-like dragons and machines, but nothing too major. As she's aware of that, so she thinks those are the only village. That's the only village I can think of that could have a poison or a sedative that wouldn't be able to be detected by smell. Most of the other villages would have a poison or something like that that would be detected by smell or something of that nature. So I've got really nothing wrong, really nothing to worry about. At least she thinks. As she proceeds to snap at the meat, she feels her foot get hooked by something, and she's immediately pulled up into the topmost branches of the tree, with the meat in her muzzle still, so she says, this does come without its benefits, as I can't get down now. And she realizes she's hanging from a few of the branches from what would be an ankle noose. I really should have known better. As she slightly chuckles at herself. I hope it's not a hunter who was out here looking for it. Some humans hunt us, but others who just want us as pets trying just to take us. Or I guess you could say in this case, kidnap us. I'm hoping I can break as you see her look at the thing that's tied around her ankle. As she looks at it and then looks down at the ground, making sure it's not too far of a stretch. As she tries to reach her paws to the ground, seeing if she can reach. As she stretches out her paw, she measures it with her eyes. She counts at least another 10 paw lengths before she would hit the ground. As she realizes this, she kind of gets a bit more worried and hopes, as she looks around, she hopes one of her members of her pack will at least notice she's still missing and will come to get her. As her apple's still on the ground, she looks a little bit long flat, like I should have just stuck with you. I shouldn't have gone for the meat. I should have just been happy with my apple. But no, I wanted. Mm. She gets a bit frustrated at herself, realizing how silly she just was. But she's not too frustrated at herself. She's not complaining per se or anything. She's just frustrated that she should have just stuck with her apple and been a bit less greedy per se. As she proceeds to try and wiggle, trying to make the rope move, but not too much. As she wiggles to the left, to the right, making the branch that she's hanging off of swing. As she swings along with it to the left and then to the right, it starts making a slight creaking noise. But as she realizes stopping that may attract the person who's laid out this trap for us. And I don't know quite yet what they're wanting to do, so I'm gonna stop swinging just so they don't notice me, maybe. I'm hoping that he just forgot, that whoever the human is just forgot where the trap was. I'm really hoping for that. As she looks around the area, she can see the grass is gentle and soft, just a few paw lengths under her. She can see the tree that she was going to go underneath, about a good 5 feet away. But as she tries to remain positive, she looks at the rope again and says, "Well, at least I was the one to be caught, and not my little sister. I don't even want to know what they would have done if they had caught my little sister. She's a bit on the younger side, only about a year old, whereas I'm at least 2 to 3. And most of our kind live to at least be," as she proceeds to try and measure with, she's trying to count in her head. She thinks to herself, math's never been my strong suit, but I can at least figure out what what age the other foxes are, right? As she scratches her head with one of her free paws, getting just behind the ear. As that helps her think a bit, as I think we can live up to upwards of 50 years. Well, that may seem a bit odd for you, as she's now talking to the people again, breaking the fourth wall. I'm letting you know as storyteller that this character will commonly do this just to let you know that this is a bit out of the ordinary for most foxes or most of the other creatures. Most foxes don't live up to 50 years, whereas the foxes in this area she's aware of, in this world she's aware of, live up to 50 or up to 50 to 60 years without having any dramatic things, well, without any decline in their hunting ability or other things to keep them out of the game per se. They can still hunt and fish and do the general things that they need to survive. As she's seen her grandmother or or one of her other members. She's aware of it's her grandmother. Hunt and fish still just fine. As she begins to look around a bit more, she notices a bit off in the distance that a very tall figure is moving throughout the trees. But as she sees standing next to it, as she looks at this tree next to it, she notices something's off about it. She can see it has long, it looks like they're branches, but she can swear they look like long, spindly fingers. As and it looks to have a face, or what would be carved into it like a face. And she can even see that face has eyes, and it seems to be following. The eyes seem to be set on following whoever this is that is next to it. As this person goes up to one of the topmost trees, or topmost branches of the tree that's standing next to it, and begins to pick off a fair bit of the leaves. She sees the tree actually get a bit upset about this. As the tree proceeds to start moving, the person jerks back in fear. As this person is very surprised he or she, because she can't tell from this distance, she's a bit too far. But this puts a good sense of relief on her as the tree proceeds to get up and begin to chase her out of the forest. as it is definitely a female person now. She can definitely see, based on the way she, based on when she turns left, she's got a bit of a different figure compared to the males of her race. He or she's got a bit different figure, so she assumes this is a female, not a male. And she starts as the female, or in this case, the female human, is she's not really sure what else to call it. She doesn't know its name or its who it is. And she starts to follow it with her eyes, and she can see the ent, or in this case, whatever you want to call it. You can call it an ent or whatever, I don't really care. Just telling the story. As she sees this ent, as she can hear the legs creaking as it runs after the human, as the arms are now definitely creaking to give the thing a bit more of a running speed, as it's rather taller than now some of the tallest trees in the forest, stretching a good fair paw lengths over it. As she is aware of this not only surprises her in a way, it almost startles her. That it's bigger than some of the. She's seen ants before, so this isn't the first time she's seen them, she's aware of. But as she looks down back at the fox burrow, she sees another little fox coming out to look for her. As it goes over to the apple, noticing the apple, and she says, "Hey, I'm stuck in the tree," trying to get its attention. As it looks up at her, she realizes it's her little sister again. She sighs in a bit of relief, saying, "Yay, I'll be able to get out of this tree, maybe. Can you try and find the release line?" The release line or the release rope, however this contraption works, there must be something to release me. And if you can, lay down something more comfortable so I don't break anything. I don't want to be walking home with another broken paw, or even worse, a broken tail. As his little sister looks around for something, as her name is, as she says, "You always call me little sister. You never call me my actual name. That always frustrates me, you know. Can we talk about this after you get me down?" She says, "Please." She says, as the little sister looks begrudgingly and says, "Fine. I'll get you down first, only because I'm worried about you." As she says, "Thank you," with another sigh of relief. As the little sister goes over to a few of the branches of the bushes nearby, snapping off a few of them, as you can hear that slight crack as the branches break, as she sets them beneath her older sister, Echo. As she goes over to them, she tries to look around for the release line, or whatever she can find to release her. As she looks around, she sees what looks to be a small rope that seems to be off in the distance, but far enough that no one could reach it easily. As she goes over to it, and begins to nibble and begins to bite away at the rope, as she can hear some of the cords snapping from her teeth biting at it. As she looks around here, though, while she's doing this, and realizes it's in a bush to keep anything from really seeing it. It's in one of the more closer bushes, yes, but she's not surprised Echo didn't see she's not surprised that Echo didn't see this release rope. And it's out of Echo's reach, even if she were to swing anyway. As she manages to cut the rope after a few more minutes of chewing on the rope, as she holds it quickly and digs her claws into the soil, lifting up parts of the soil, but not too much, trying to make sure her drop for her sister isn't too fast. She tries to make sure it's a little slower. She lowers her a bit as she keeps an eye on Echo, but as Echo's a bit more on the heavy end now, she's having a little bit of trouble with making sure the fall is slow, as she accidentally lets go a little bit too early. As she hears, "Ow!" At least nothing's broken. She goes back over quickly in a bit of haste to where Echo fell, and says, "Everything okay? Is everything intact?" Echo nods and says, "Yeah, I think everything's okay. I think everything's intact." And she checks and realizes she has a sprained paw. And she says, "Damn it, at least it's not as bad as a break." As she says, "Sorry," and she says, "Sorry for only calling you little sister. I know your name's Northern. It's just I'm so used to calling you little sister because Mom and Dad only came up with your name after you were born, and not before. So they didn't have any time to tell me the name, so I got used to calling you little sister for about a year or so, because they only came up with the name about a little later on. A little later on into the winter, actually. They decided to call you Northern. So I'm sorry again, sister." She, as the sister playfully nudges her with her nose. "I'm just glad you're okay," she says with a kind smile. She nuzzles underneath underneath her older sister's chin, feeling away for a bit of her fur, as her older sister shoves her back in a bit of playfulness. And as Northern looks through and says, "We should really get home, though, before it gets any more dark than it already is. It's already winding its way into the evening. I hope you managed to find yourself some food, though." As she says, "Yeah, I did." As she's still holding in her muzzle what looks to be a good-sized piece of meat, as it looks to be venison, actually. As Northern looks at it and says, "Where did you get that? I swear it's a bit of deer. How did you manage to catch that on your own? Let alone..." "That's how I ended up in the trap, Northern." As Northern puts on a bit of realization, going, "Oh, you really should have been more careful with that. You should have known they would have been a bit more smarter than that." And she looks at herself and says, "Yeah, you're right. I should have been a bit more smarter realizing it. But it can't be helped. It's a bigger piece of meat. Hopefully this is enough not just to feed me, but for a bit of a treat for everyone else. I'm hoping so anyway." As she starts heading a bit closer to the fox den, pushing a few of the roots out of the way and generally getting down into the fox's den, she smells a large earthy-like smell, and she sees it's been mostly cleaned out, and it looks like it's generally been warmed up. As she can see, a few branches have been brought up to cover it up a bit more and to bring it a bit more warmth. She can see her mom's in one of the more in a bit of the further part of the fox den, generally curled up around herself. As she can see her mom's generally trying to bat at her tail. As she can see her as she looks around for Dad. As she looks around for her dad, she sees him just off to the right, still still trying to adjust himself, still trying to fix the way he's sitting down or lying down in this case. As he says, "Oh, good, you're home." As he looks at Northern first, saying, "Oh, you have an apple. I mean, that'll do for something. At least it's better than nothing." And did you? I assume you found Echo here. As he looks towards Echo. "So, Echo, what was taking you a little longer than normal?" As Echo looks to smile at her dad, as she says, "Well, I found this." As she shows the meat to her dad, being a large piece of venison. As her dad looks a bit surprised, and says, "You know that's most likely was a trap set from one of the humans. Are you sure it's not been poisoned?" "Yeah, because I was just hanging in a tree while holding on to it. If they had wanted to poison me with it, they wouldn't have set up a living trap for it. A trap where I would have lived for it." "Yeah, I suppose you're right, Echo. But I'm just glad to see that you're okay, honestly." As Echo proceeds to smile at her dad, she goes over to her dad, nuzzling in and smelling his scent, and generally nuzzling into his soft fur, nicking past one of his ears, and nosing one of his ears and generally giving him a bit of affection. As she lays down the meat just in front of him, she says, "I was hoping we could share. We could all share." I don't see any reason why not. As you see him look to Northern and pat the soil next to him, spreading out a bit of the particles of the soil. He pats it next to him as Northern comes over and says, "Sure, I'll have a bit of the meat. I'm just not sure if I can even eat a little bit of that. It's a lot of meat, and I already had been brought a bit of food from Mom. I'm still a little too young to hunt, but I'll still go out and I'll still go out and explore. I'm still allowed to go out and explore, which always puts a smile on my face. And Mom says tomorrow you'll be teaching me how to hunt. Echo, doesn't that sound like fun?" As Echo looks at her with a bit of surprise and says, "That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. I'm very happy you'll be able to hunt. I'm very happy you'll be able to hunt with me. I'm surprised, Mom. Is letting me hunt. Is letting me teach you how to hunt. Usually, Mom was the one who taught me how to hunt, anyway. I'm surprised Mom's having me teach you." As Northern says, "Well, she's a bit in the older age, and she was hoping that since she's getting up there, you'd be able to teach me. That way, she doesn't have to run for too long or get generally exhausted. She's been coming home a lot more tired lately, and I don't want to strain her any more than she is. So I offered up the suggestion that you teach me how to hunt instead." She agreed with that. I'm happy she did. As the mom looks over, as the mom is now looking at them, smiling as you can see most of her families together. As she gets up, but still appears to be walking over a bit more groggily, or a bit more, as if she's still got sleep in her eyes. As she makes it over to the meat and begins to tear into it, and she says, "So, Echo, what did you catch for yourself besides this large piece of venison that you had to cost yourself a sprained paw for? From what I can tell, as you're still limping on it, or you're not trying to apply any weight to it, so you're leaning more towards your left ear, and I can tell your paw's sprained then." As she looks at her paw and says, "Yeah, I'm just hoping I can hunt for tomorrow then, so I can help teach Norton here how to hunt." And she says, "That's good. I'm glad to see you're wanting to help in the upkeep of your sister. Your sister's always worried about you, though." "Yeah, I know. She always comes out and checks on me before it hits too late into the night before it hits nightfall." As Echo starts to dig into the meat here. As I think this is where I'll end off chapter 2, folks. I hope you're all here for chapter 3, and I hope you all enjoyed that bit of a story. Sorry if you wanted a bit more description or a bit more detail. Actually, I know I had a good amount of. I don't know why I'm. Excuse what I said earlier. I'm being a bit silly. But I hope you all enjoyed the story, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Hopefully, you'll all be here for chapter 3, and I hope this one put a smile on all your faces. And I believe this ends our chapter here. I'll give another recap when we get to chapter 3. I hope to come up with something for it, with at least within 2 to 3 days. We'll see. Anyway,